Washington State is home to wonder and mystery in equal measure. Some people think that this is a new occurrence in the region. However, when digging a little bit deeper, the state is full of strange events and local legends from the past as well. Several of these local stories get lost in the annuals of time because of the lack of reporting from their era. A local event would be lucky to receive an article in a local paper. Cameras were rare, so little to no photographic evidence of these events exist. The next tale is one that locals talk about around campfires and family gatherings. Even when visiting these places, there's little to no signage for visitors explaining the colorful history. Although facts exist, they're hard to verify because of the lack of accurate reporting. And biased news was still a thing in the past, even in the 1800s. It is not just this one place that has colorful little-known history. In fact, in every county and city, there's equally interesting stories to discover by talking to locals, combing through museum archives. Often the names of a place will have a kernel of the reason why that place received its name. Tracking down the official story is just the start. There's usually a deeper legend that is only known about regionally or locally in the towns themselves. Tonight we're going to look at one of these places and its history, compiled by me, Jacob Zappey. I have collected local lore and history and first-hand encounters into an anthology series called North West Mythologies. 2 volumes are currently available to buy on my website. When you're there, make sure you look around. It has a place where you can stay up to date with what I have coming up, a map to report your own encounters in strange places. I always have new things coming up, and if a story you post on there interests me, I'll check it out. So make sure you check back on that website often so you know what I have coming up. And if you enjoy what you hear here on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs, so make sure you turn on that notification. I'm trying to do a new video of the strange and supernatural weekly. Leave a comment letting me know what legends you have in your area, wherever you might live, in Washington or another state. Kitsap County is where I currently live, and it's named after the legendary Chief Kitsap of the Suquamish tribe. Finding information on this chief is a challenge. His nephew is Chief Seattle, and you think it would be easy. But it might be hard on purpose to track down information on him because it's a tribal belief that if you speak the deceased ancestor's name too much, their spirit can get disturbed from the spirit realm. And every time somebody mentions their name, it draws their attention back so they're not able to rest in peace. And the more they say their name, the more they get disturbed. And they say that that's why they named Seattle instead of South, which was the chief's correct name at his birth. And it's on purpose. It's even on his grave marker, so people aren't saying South all the time, disturbing him. Chief Kitsap was a legendary warrior during a challenging time for Washington tribes. The local tribes of the Suquamish and their allies suffered countless losses from raids by natives from Canada, indigenous people from Canada. And the main reason they were losing was the logs in Canada were so much bigger that they built their canoes with that it allowed the Canadians to have the upper hand in any sea battle. They could easily capsize the smaller Washington native canoes by ramming them, and then they killed the survivors by shooting them with arrows when they tried to swim to safety. So Chief Kitsap was one of the only survivors of one of these sea battles. And he gained a reputation as a great medicine man when he is able to heal several of his wounds using powerful magic. And so he was said to have done this several times and not only cured himself but others. And he survived so many wars and he was so good at healing that each time he did it, his legend would grow and he gained more reputation. So Native American medicine people would use a combination of treating physical wounds and personal magic to heal all kinds of maladies. They go into a trance-like state and commune with spirits to help cure their patients. They're even said to be able to travel to the spirit realm and convince spirits to return to their bodies after death. the better job they did, the higher the payment they would receive from the patients' families. Because of his reputation, Chief Kitsap united many local tribes and led a retaliatory raid on Vancouver Island to seek retribution for all these lost battles. They attacked a village near present-day Vancouver, and they killed many prisoners. However, all the young warriors were missing. And so after they did this, the flotilla of over 200 canoes rowed back from Vancouver to Dungeness Spit by modern-day Sequim, Washington. As the canoes emerged from a fog bank, they pulled up on the beach. They heard the celebration chants of the Canadian tribe they had been looking for. And upon landing, Chief Kitsap personally executed a few of the captives. And this execution prompted the Canadian tribe to attack. And battle was joined right there on beach. The primary weapons used by both sides were war clubs and knives. So that's how they had hand-to-hand combat, was just with knives and war clubs. And the fighting was intense and lasted several hours. Although no number of casualties was reported because the reporting was so bad, it was considered a significant victory for the Washington tribes. Several miles of the Spit was said to have blood going into the water. And they said that that was the first time red tide was used because of all of that blood there in the water. So Chief Kitsap stacked up all the bodies and all of the giant canoes they hated, and he used a flaming brand to just have this massive bonfire of all these hated canoes and these hated Canadian tribe that they had defeated, and it became a funeral pyre right there on Dungeness Spit. So Chief Kitsap also led his tribe in many attacks on the Chimicum, who lived just outside modern-day Port Townsend. He targeted the Chimicum because they were said to be like related or have some blood from some of these Canadian tribes. And the Chimicum would have to climb up this rock called Tamawanas Rock, where the Suquamish could only attack a few at a time because they're so outnumbered. And then they had caves they'd also escape into in the area. And in that way, they were able to survive lots of attacks. Until Chief Kitsap led a raid and caught the Chimicum at a celebration in a longhouse. They set the longhouse on fire, and as the enemy emerged, Chief Kitsap and his tribe attacked them, and hardly any of the Chimicum escaped. And to this day, that tribe's still severely depleted because of this loss handed to him by Chief Kitsap. Chief Kitsap was also part of a secret society of warriors that held meetings at a giant longhouse called the Old Man House. This was a house that was around the size of 3 football fields, 800 feet long. The support holes can still be seen on the Clearwater Reservation down the road from Chief Seattle's grave. And Chief Seattle was also a member of this warrior fraternity. Different warrior houses would congregate and hold sacred ceremonies and initiations. The exact names and societies and rituals have been lost to time, but they're probably named after local animals and legendary beasts, like a wolf tribe or a bear group or something like that, similar to Vikings in Scandinavia. And so people occupied this old man house for over 2,000 years until the 1900s, when native traditions were outlawed. And members would gain rank by defeating legendary enemies, performing legendary feats, and Chief Kitsap was said to be one of the highest ranking members ever of that old man house. Only one book on what happened to Chief Kitsap was available in the local library that I could find. Unlike his more famous relative, Chief Seattle, he wasn't super friendly to European settlers, and he would often have battles with them in the 1800s. And this meant that no one was around to write down his exploits. There was only oral tradition. And so the facts and details got lost over generations. I couldn't find any pictures of him. He led countless raids and fought many battles against the European invaders. And his legend grew even more as he was fighting in all these battles. And one time he got wounded and he was captured with U.S. soldiers. And he was considered a prisoner of war and sent to Walla Walla prison for several years. As a prisoner of war, he saw many native prisoners treated for different ailments by the European doctors. He saw many natives get over sickness by being given a red liquid, and he had no knowledge of what this liquid might be or the magic it contained. And it was cough syrup that was used in the early 1800s. And he thought, hey, that medicine has strong magic. And he returned to his tribe with this experience. So when he got back to his tribe, he was no longer as active as a warrior. He's getting older and he'd suffered just several wounds, but he did continue his role as a medicine man. Something to be noted about medicine people is that they got paid by the family no matter if their loved one got better or not. However, if the loved one passed away from the cure or the original complaint, the family was entitled to seek compensation. It could be in the form of a monetary repayment, or in extreme cases, the family could seek the death of the medicine man or medicine person. And the refund amount was dependent on how successful the cure was. When Chief Kitsap returned, his tribe was suffering greatly from European diseases that his people had no antibodies to fight. And as a result, up to half the tribe died from these different viruses. After seeing a majority of the young kids passing away from smallpox and other diseases, the tribe was in crucial need of a miracle. In desperation, Chief Kitsap recalled his time when he was in prison and began treating patients with a red liquid. He found one that looked similar to what he had seen help other natives during his time there in Walla Walla. But unfortunately, this was not the same red liquid he had witnessed heal. The red liquid Chief Kitsap gave many tribal members was said to be in fact red paint. And paint in the 1800s was highly deadly. It had lethal amounts of lead in it, and that was the primary ingredient, was lead. So needless to say, several families whose loved ones died from this treatment Chief Kitsap gave them banded together to extract their right to retribution as the prescribing medicine person. And after inviting him to a potlatch, they ambushed and murdered him for their dead loved ones, as was their right in their culture at that time. The conspirators were said to have drugged him and gotten him drunk. But even in this dazed state, Chief Kitsap still managed to kill and maim several attackers before succumbing to his many wounds. The families were still scared that somehow Chief Kitsap, this legendary warrior, chief, and medicine man, would somehow heal his wounds and seek revenge on them. So they decided that the only way to keep this from happening was to sever all his limbs and decapitate him, and spread the remains throughout the area here in Kitsap County. Unfortunately, no mention of where they hid the limbs of the legendary chief has been reported. Local legends here in the area say they threw the head into Kitsap Lake, and that's why they named the lake after him. So legend still has it that if all of his body parts are found and assembled, the legendary chief could still somehow return from the spirit realm, or at least his spirit. And he was often prone to boasting that he could not be killed by any man or weapon. Furthermore, he even claimed that he could heal himself from any injury, including death itself. I recently visited the Suquamish Museum while investigating another local mystery. While there, I tried to verify some Kitsap legends that I had read about with the curator there. Although she was friendly, she didn't have any knowledge of Chief Kitsap, other than that he was a chief. And so I asked her about this, what I had heard, and she said she'd have to ask her grandmother and see if she had any history passed down from ancestors. But the museum did have a map of where the old man house was and the actual size, and I corrected this detail in my book. The museum curator confirmed that people inhabited the house for over 2,000 years, and it was a very sacred site. They also had a piece of the beam on display in the museum. It was really great, so if you're in that area, make sure you guys check out that museum. The legend of Chief Kitsap looks like it'll have to stay a legend for now because I couldn't get any facts verified. Hopefully one day his legacy and deeds will be able to become just as famous as his nephew's deeds, Chief Seattle. I actually like the story of Chief Kitsap more. I like to end stories with a wild speculation section. I've heard that many houses around Kitsap Lake have experienced significant hauntings. One even went as far as hiring a professional paranormal investigator to get the ghosts to leave their property around the lake. I do think that the high amount of hauntings could have to do with the legend of Chief Kitsap. Was his head actually tossed in the lake? Who knows? Maybe. There's no way of knowing, as there is no written account officially letting us know where his remains are. Where you can't go and visit his grave like Chief Seattle's because his body parts are supposedly scattered. What do you think would happen if all of Chief Kitsap's remains were found? Would he be able to return? Or maybe his spirit would be able to rest more peacefully? Leave a comment below letting the world know what your theories are on Chief Kitsap. I'm not sure what would happen if all his body parts were reunited, but in Scandinavian culture we have an undead ancestor called Druger. They protect grave sites. Could Chief Kitsap become the Native American equivalent? And Druger are very unfriendly and scary beings that protect burial sites. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe. As mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. It is a grind, it's hard work. While you're at it, make sure you hit the notification so you can stay up to date when I drop new videos. I upload new videos of the strange and supernatural, whatever I'm feeling, local lore weekly. And you can only find it in my own words right here. And if you want to support my writing, make sure you pick up a copy of my book. Visit my website, northwestmythology.com, linked in the description. I love weird, strange, scary stories and look forward to sharing many more. I also often get asked why I don't cite my sources for these tales. I first read about Chief Kitsap in an old library book 10 or more years ago. To track down that book would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Plus, I have no desire to write completely factual histories that people will use in their papers. If you are into that, look it up yourself, and that's what I hope to do, is motivate others that are interested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.